I should have known something was off when Jake insisted we go to Brandon's party that Friday night. He'd been acting weird all week, checking his phone constantly and giving me those half smiles that didn't quite reach his eyes. But I was so caught up in finals and trying to make everything perfect between us that I brushed it off. I spent 2 hours getting ready that night. I wore the red dress he'd bought me for my birthday last month, the one he said made my eyes look incredible. I curled my hair the way he liked it and put on that perfume he always complimented. Looking back, I hate that I tried so hard for someone who was already planning to throw me away. Brandon's house was packed when we arrived around 9. The music was so loud I could feel it in my chest, and the smell of beer mixed with way too much cologne hit me the moment we walked through the front door. Jake grabbed my hand as we pushed through the crowd, and for a second, everything felt normal, like we were just another college couple having fun on a Friday night. He kissed my cheek near the kitchen and told me he was going to find the guys. "I'll grab us drinks," he said, squeezing my hand. I watched him disappear into the crowd, his tall frame weaving between groups of people I barely knew. I should have followed him. I should have stayed close. But I didn't want to be that girlfriend, you know? The clingy one who couldn't let her boyfriend out of her sight. So I found myself talking to Sarah from my psychology class, trying to make conversation over the pounding music. She was telling me about some drama with her roommate when Jake reappeared with 2 red cups. He handed me one with that charming smile that had made me fall for him in the first place. "What is it?" I asked, taking a sip. It tasted like fruit punch with something stronger mixed in. "Just some punch." "Brandon made it," he said, but he was already looking past me, scanning the room. "I'll be back in a few, okay? Mike's got something he wants to show me." I nodded and watched him leave again. The drink was sweet but strong, and I sipped it slowly while Sarah kept talking. But I wasn't really listening anymore. There was this weird feeling in my stomach, like when you're on a roller coaster and you know the big drop is coming. The party got louder as the night went on. People were laughing and dancing, and someone had started a beer pong tournament in the dining room. I moved from group to group, making small talk with people I recognized from campus. Everyone kept asking where Jake was, and I kept making excuses. "Oh, he's around somewhere," I'd say, like it was totally normal for my boyfriend to vanish for 45 minutes at a time. I checked my phone. No messages. I thought about texting him but didn't want to seem desperate. The drink was making me feel a little dizzy. Or maybe it was just the stress of the past week catching up with me. Finals were next week, and I'd been pulling all-nighters in the library. Jake had been distant during my study sessions too, always finding reasons to leave early or skip our usual coffee dates. "You okay, honey?" Sarah touched my arm. "You look a little pale." "Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired," I lied. "I think I need to use the bathroom." I excused myself and started making my way through the crowd. The music seemed even louder now, and the flashing lights someone had set up were making my head pound. I pushed past a group of guys doing shots by the staircase and headed toward the back of the house where I remembered seeing a bathroom earlier. The hallway was quieter, thank God. My heels clicked on the hardwood floor as I walked past closed doors and family photos hanging on the walls. Brandon's parents were probably out of town, like most parents were when their college kids threw parties like this. The bathroom door was at the end of the hall, and I could see light coming from underneath it. I knocked softly. "Occupied," someone called out, so I leaned against the wall to wait. That's when I heard voices coming from the room right next to me. The door was closed, but the walls in these old houses were thin, and I could make out bits of conversation. At first, I didn't pay attention. People were probably just hanging out, talking about school or whatever. But then, I heard a laugh I recognized. A deep, familiar laugh that made my heart skip a beat. Jake's laugh. I pressed my ear closer to the wall without even thinking about it. He was in there with someone, and they were talking quietly, like they didn't want to be overheard. I should have walked away. I should have minded my own business. But something about the way he was talking, the tone of his voice, made me freeze. The bathroom door opened behind me, and some girl I didn't know came out. "It's all yours," she said, giving me a strange look before heading back toward the party. I went into the bathroom and locked the door, but I couldn't stop thinking about Jake being in that room. Who was he with? And why did he sound so secretive? I washed my hands slowly, trying to calm the weird anxiety that was building in my chest. The mirror showed a girl in a red dress who looked worried and tired, not at all like the confident person who'd gotten ready 2 hours ago. That's when I heard his voice again, clearer this time, and what he said next would change everything. I was still at the sink, the water running over my hands, when I heard him say my name, not in the sweet way he used to say it when we were alone, but casual, almost dismissive, like I was just some topic of conversation. "Emma's so naive," he was saying, and I could hear the smirk in his voice. "She actually thinks I'm going to stick around after graduation." My blood went cold. I turned off the water slowly, afraid that even the smallest sound might make them stop talking. I needed to hear this. I needed to understand what was happening. A woman laughed, high-pitched and cruel. I didn't recognize the voice, but there was something about it that made my skin crawl. "God, Jake, you're horrible. How long have you been planning this?" "Since Christmas, probably." Maybe before that. His voice was so matter-of-fact, like he was talking about changing his major or picking a restaurant. "I mean, she's sweet and all, but she's not exactly girlfriend material for the real world, you know? She's got no connections, no money, no ambition beyond getting her little teaching degree." I pressed my back against the bathroom door, feeling like I might throw up. The punch I'd been drinking suddenly tasted like poison in my mouth. 3 years. We'd been together for 3 years, and he was talking about me like I was some kind of project he was ready to abandon. "But her dad's got that construction company, right?" the woman said. "That's got to be worth something." Jake laughed again, and the sound made me want to scream. "Yeah, Mitchell Construction, small-time operation, but he's done pretty well for himself. Emma's always talking about how hard he works, how he built it from nothing. I figure there's gotta be some money there. So what's the plan? I get her to ask him for a loan. Tell her we want to start something together after graduation. Maybe open our own business. She'll eat that up, thinking we're planning a future. Her dad loves her more than anything in the world, so he'll probably say yes. Once we get the money, we disappear," the woman finished, and I could hear the excitement in her voice. "Exactly. I've got that job offer in Seattle, remember? Perfect excuse to leave town. By the time she figures out what happened, we'll be long gone." I slid down the door until I was sitting on the cold tile floor, my red dress bunched up around me. The room was spinning, and I couldn't tell if it was from the punch or from the shock of what I was hearing. Every memory from the past few months suddenly made horrible sense. The way he'd been asking about my dad's business, the casual questions about our family's finances, the sudden interest in my future plans. "What about the stuff she bought you?" the woman asked. "That watch, the laptop? What about it?" "Gifts don't come with return policies," Jake said, and I could practically hear him shrugging. "Besides, she wanted to buy that stuff. Made her feel like she was taking care of me. I remembered saving up for months to buy him that watch for our anniversary. I'd worked extra shifts at the campus bookstore, skipped meals, bought generic everything just so I could afford something nice for him. I'd been so proud when I gave it to him, so happy to see his face light up. Except now, I realized he hadn't been happy about the gift. He'd been happy about the manipulation working. "You're really going to just ghost her?" the woman asked. "After 3 years? What's the alternative? Stick around and pretend to be in love with small-town Emma forever? Look, she's a nice girl, but she's not built for anything bigger than teaching elementary school in whatever suburb she ends up in. I've got actual plans for my life." The woman made a sound like she was thinking. "She's going to be devastated. She'll get over it. Girls like Emma always do. They find some nice, boring guy who wants the whole white picket fence thing, and they convince themselves they're happy. I'm probably doing her a favor, honestly. Better she finds out now that she's not cut out for anything real than waste more time pretending." I wrapped my arms around my knees and buried my face in them, trying to muffle the sobs that were threatening to escape. 3 years of my life. 3 years of believing I was loved, of planning a future, of thinking I'd found my person. And it was all fake. Every kiss, every "I love you," every moment I thought we were building something together. The worst part was how stupid I felt. All those little red flags I'd ignored because I wanted so badly to believe we were real. The way he never wanted to visit my hometown. How he'd get weird whenever I talked about long-term plans. The way he'd started treating my dreams like they were cute but ultimately meaningless. "So when are you going to ask her about the money?" the woman asked. "Soon. Maybe next week, after finals are over. I'll wait until she's relaxed and happy. Maybe take her somewhere nice. Make it romantic, you know? Tell her I've been thinking about our future, that I want to start building something with her." I had to bite my hand to keep from making noise. Even now, even after everything I'd heard, part of me wanted to believe this was some kind of mistake, that maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe this was all some horrible joke that would make sense later. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Deep down, I'd probably known for months that something was wrong. I'd just been too scared to face it, too invested in the fairy tale to see the truth that was right in front of me. The voices got quieter, and I heard movement in the room. They were getting ready to leave, which meant Jake would be back out at the party soon, probably looking for me, probably ready to put on his loving boyfriend act while planning to destroy my family's livelihood. I pulled myself up from the floor and looked at myself in the mirror. My makeup was smeared, my eyes were red, and I looked like exactly what I was, a girl whose whole world had just collapsed. But I couldn't go back out there like this. I couldn't face him knowing what I knew. I needed help. I needed someone who would know what to do, someone who would believe me and protect me and help me figure out how to handle this nightmare. I needed my dad. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone. I'd managed to clean up my makeup enough that I didn't look completely destroyed, but inside I felt like I was falling apart piece by piece. I slipped out of the bathroom and down the hallway, past the party noise, until I found a quiet corner near the back door where I could make the call. Dad answered on the second ring, the way he always did when I called. "Hey, sweetheart. Having fun at the party?" I opened my mouth to say something normal, something that would make him think everything was fine, but instead this broken sob came out, then another one, and suddenly, I couldn't stop. "Emma? Emma, what's wrong?" His voice changed immediately, went from relaxed to sharp with concern. "Are you hurt? Where are you?" I tried to talk, but every time I started to explain, the words got tangled up with crying. "How do you tell your father that the boy he'd welcomed into your family, the one he'd taught to use power tools and invited to Sunday dinners, was planning to rob him blind?" I can't breathe. I managed to get out between sobs. "Dad, I need you to come get me. I'm already getting my keys. Where are you? Are you safe right now?" "I'm at Brandon's house, on Maple Street. The blue one with the big front porch." I wiped my nose with the back of my hand, trying to pull myself together enough to give him the address. "Dad, Jake, he's not who I thought he was." There was silence on the other end for a moment, and I could hear him starting his truck. The engine sound was familiar and comforting, like everything else about my dad. Steady and reliable and always there when I needed him. "What did he do to you?" His voice was quiet, but there was something dangerous underneath it. Something that reminded me that my father wasn't just a gentle man who built houses and fixed broken things. He was also someone who'd spent his whole life protecting the people he loved. "He doesn't love me," I said, and saying it out loud made it feel real in a way that was almost unbearable. "He never loved me. He's been using me, Dad. He wants to steal money from you." I heard him take a deep breath. "Okay, we'll figure this out. But right now, I need you to stay calm and stay safe. Can you find somewhere private to wait for me? Don't go back to wherever he is." I looked around and spotted a small garden area behind the house, tucked away from the main party. "Yeah, I can hide out back. How long will it take you to get here? 20 minutes, maybe less? Emma, listen to me. Whatever happened, whatever you found out, we're going to handle it together. You understand? You're not alone in this." The relief that washed over me was so strong it almost knocked me over. This was why I'd called him. Not just because I needed a ride home, but because I knew that no matter how bad things got, my dad would figure out how to make it right. He'd been doing it my whole life. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, sweetheart. Now go find that safe spot and wait for me. And Emma, if Jake comes looking for you, you don't owe him any explanations. You don't owe him anything." I hung up and made my way around to the back garden. grateful that the music was loud enough to cover the sound of my footsteps. There was a little bench tucked between some rose bushes, hidden from the house, but with a clear view of the street so I could watch for Dad's truck. The night air was cool against my face, and I realized how stuffy and overwhelming it had been inside. I sat down on the bench and tried to process everything that had happened in the last hour. This morning, I'd woken up thinking I was in love with someone who loved me back. I'd been planning what to wear to make him happy, wondering if he might start talking about moving in together after graduation. Now I knew that while I was falling asleep thinking about our future, he was probably texting another woman about how to best scam my family. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through our old messages, looking at them with new eyes. All those times he'd asked casual questions about Dad's business. How's your old man's construction company doing? He must be pretty successful to afford that new truck. Think he'd ever want to invest in something new? I'd thought he was just being interested in my family, trying to be a good boyfriend. I'd been so stupid. A group of people came stumbling out the back door, laughing and drunk, and I pressed myself further into the shadows. I recognized a couple of them from campus, but they didn't see me. They were talking about some drama happening inside, something about someone's boyfriend getting caught cheating, and I almost laughed at the irony. If they only knew what real drama looked like. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "Where'd you go?" "Can't find you anywhere." I stared at the message for a long time, thinking about all the ways I could respond. I could play dumb, pretend I didn't know anything, let him keep digging his own grave. I could confront him right here over text, tell him I knew exactly what kind of person he really was. I could tell him my dad was coming and watch him panic. But in the end, I didn't respond at all. Dad was right. I didn't owe Jake anything, not even an explanation. Another text came through. "Emma, seriously, where are you? People are asking about you." Then another, "Are you okay? You're scaring me." The fake concern in that last message made me angry in a way I didn't expect. He was scared because he thought his plan might be falling apart, not because he actually cared about me. Even now, even when he thought I might be in trouble, he was only thinking about himself. I heard the rumble of Dad's truck before I saw it. That familiar diesel engine that had picked me up from countless sleepovers and school events and heartbreaks over the years. But this was different. This wasn't teenage drama or a bad grade or friend trouble. This was my first real betrayal. My first glimpse at how cruel people could be when they wanted something from you. The headlights swept across the street as he pulled up to the curb, and I saw his silhouette in the driver's seat, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing the flannel shirt he always wore on weekends. My dad, who'd taught me to ride a bike and helped me with homework and walked me down the aisle at homecoming, who'd built me a treehouse when I was 8 and fixed my car when it broke down and never once made me feel like I was asking for too much. I stood up from the bench and started walking toward the truck, leaving the party and Jake and 3 years of lies behind me. But I wasn't walking away empty-handed. I was walking toward the one person who'd never let me down, never lied to me, never seen me as anything other than precious. And for the first time since I'd heard those terrible words through the bathroom wall, I felt a little bit of hope. Dad didn't say anything when I climbed into the passenger seat. He just looked at me for a moment, taking in my smeared makeup and red eyes, then reached over and squeezed my hand. His palm was rough from years of construction work, calloused and strong, and it felt like the most solid thing in my world right then. "You want to tell me what happened?" he asked quietly, putting the truck in park, but leaving the engine running. I took a shaky breath and told him everything. About overhearing Jake's conversation, about the plan to steal money from him, about the 3 years of lies I'd been living. Dad listened without interrupting, his jaw getting tighter with every detail I shared. When I got to the part about Jake calling me naive and talking about my little teaching degree, I saw his hands clench on the steering wheel. "That son of a bitch," he said under his breath, and I'd never heard him sound quite like that before. Dad rarely cursed, and when he did, it meant he was really angry. "I'm so stupid, Dad. How did I not see it? All those questions about your business, the way he acted whenever we talked about the future. I should have known. Hey," he turned to face me fully, "don't you dare blame yourself for this. You trusted someone you loved. That's not stupid, that's human. The fact that he abused that trust says everything about him and nothing about you." Through the truck's windshield, I could see people still going in and out of Brandon's house. The party was in full swing. Music pounding, someone laughing loudly on the front porch. It felt surreal that all that normal college fun was happening just 50 feet away, while my entire life was falling apart. "What are we going to do?" I asked. Dad was quiet for a long moment, staring at the house. "Well, first thing is we're going to make sure he can't hurt you anymore. But I think we need to handle this carefully. If he's planning to ask you for money next week, we might be able to use that." "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe we let him dig his own grave a little deeper. Let him make his pitch, record it, get everything on tape. Then we have solid evidence of attempted fraud." I stared at him. "You want me to keep pretending everything's normal? Keep seeing him?" "Not for long. Just until he shows his hand completely. Emma, if this guy is willing to con you and your family, he's probably done it before. Other girls, other families. If we handle this right, we might be able to stop him from doing it again." The idea of having to look Jake in the eye and act like I still loved him made me feel sick. But Dad had a point. How many other girlfriends had Jake used over the years? How many other families had he targeted? My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jake. I'm really worried. Did you go home? Are you sick?" I showed the message to Dad, who read it with disgust. "Look at that. Already setting up his story. Poor Jake, so concerned about his girlfriend who mysteriously disappeared. He's going to come looking for me at home, isn't he?" "Probably, but that's okay. We'll be ready for him." Dad put the truck in drive. "Let's go home and figure out our next move. Your mom's going to want to hear about this too." As we pulled away from the curb, I caught a glimpse of Jake through one of the front windows. He was talking to someone, gesturing with his hands, probably asking if they'd seen me. For a second, I felt that familiar flutter in my stomach that I'd always gotten when I saw him. 3 years of conditioning doesn't disappear in one night, even when you know the truth. But then I remembered his voice through that bathroom wall, calling me naive, dismissing my dreams, planning to rob my family. The flutter turned to nausea. "Dad? When did you know you loved Mom? Like, really know?" He glanced over at me, probably wondering where that question came from. I knew I loved her pretty early on, but I knew I was in love with her the first time I saw her cry. Sounds weird, I know, but she was upset about something her boss had said to her, and I realized that her pain actually hurt me physically, like in my chest, and all I wanted to do was fix whatever was wrong and make sure no one ever made her feel that way again. I thought about all the times I'd cried in front of Jake over the years. Stress about school, fights with friends, worry about the future. He'd always said the right things, made comforting noises, but I couldn't remember him ever looking like my pain actually hurt him. He'd always seemed more concerned with getting me to stop crying than with understanding why I was upset in the first place. "Jake never looked at me like that," I said quietly. "No, I don't think he did. Real love isn't just about the good times, Em. It's about wanting to protect someone, wanting to build them up, wanting to be the person they can count on when everything goes wrong. What that boy was planning to do to you, that's the opposite of love." We drove through downtown Madison in comfortable silence. The streets were busy with other college kids heading to parties or coming back from bars. Normal Friday night stuff that felt like it belonged to a different world now. I wondered how many of those couples walking hand in hand were real, and how many were just one person using another. "Are you going to tell Mom everything?" I asked as we turned onto our street. "Your mother's tougher than you think. She's going to be furious when she hears what he was planning, but she's also going to be proud of you for being smart enough to get out of there and call for help." Our house came into view, the porch light on like it always was when I was out late. Mom's car was in the driveway, and I could see the blue glow of the TV through the living room window. She was probably watching one of her crime shows, waiting up to make sure I got home safe. "I really loved him, Dad," I said as we pulled into the driveway. "I thought we were going to build a life together." "I know you did, sweetheart, and that love was real, even if his wasn't. Don't let what he did make you think there's something wrong with having feelings or trusting people. The world needs more people like you, not fewer." He turned off the engine, and we sat there for a moment in the quiet darkness of the garage. I could hear the house settling around us, familiar and safe. Tomorrow everything would be different. Tomorrow I'd have to figure out how to face Jake and play along with his lies. But tonight, I was home. Jake showed up at our house the next morning at 10:30, just like I knew he would. I was sitting at the kitchen table with Mom and Dad, picking at a plate of scrambled eggs I had no appetite for, when we heard his car pull into the driveway. "That's him," I said, my stomach immediately tying itself in knots. Dad stood up and looked out the window. Yep, right on schedule. He'd been expecting this since we got home last night and filled Mom in on everything. She'd been furious, pacing around the kitchen and calling Jake names I'd never heard her use before. "Remember what we talked about," Dad said, sitting back down. "Act normal. Hurt and confused, but not suspicious. Let him do the talking." The doorbell rang, and I heard Jake's voice through the door. "Mr. Mitchell? It's Jake. Is Emma home? She disappeared from the party last night and I've been worried sick." Dad opened the door, and I could see Jake from where I sat. He looked genuinely concerned. His hair messy, like he'd been running his hands through it, wearing the same clothes from last night. If I didn't know better, I'd think he'd been up all night worrying about me. "She's here," Dad said, his voice neutral. "Come on in." Jake stepped into our kitchen and saw me at the table. His face lit up with relief, and he rushed over to kneel beside my chair. Thank God. I looked everywhere for you. What happened? Are you okay?" I let him take my hands, even though touching him now made my skin crawl. "I wasn't feeling well," I said, which wasn't exactly a lie. "I got dizzy and nauseous, so I called my dad to come get me." "Why didn't you find me? I would have taken you home." He brushed a strand of hair away from my face, the same gentle gesture that used to make me melt. Now it felt like an act, like everything else about him. "I couldn't find you," I said. "You were off with your friends somewhere. I was looking for you too. We must have just missed each other." He sat down in the chair next to me, still holding my hand. "I was so scared something had happened to you." Mom offered him coffee, playing her part perfectly. She'd always liked Jake, or at least I'd thought she did. Now I wondered if she'd seen through him before I did. "Thanks, Mrs. Mitchell. I didn't sleep at all last night. I kept thinking about Emma being sick and not knowing where she was." We made small talk for a few minutes, Jake playing the role of concerned boyfriend while my parents acted like nothing had changed. It was surreal, like watching a play where everyone knew their lines except the audience. Then Jake's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted slightly. "Sorry, work thing. I should probably head out soon." He squeezed my hand. Are you feeling better? Want to grab lunch later? Maybe we could talk about some stuff I've been thinking about." There it was, the setup for his big pitch. I felt Dad tense slightly beside me. "What kind of stuff?" I asked, trying to sound curious rather than suspicious. "Just some ideas I've had about our future. After graduation, I mean. I've been doing some research, and I think there might be some opportunities for us to start something together." "That sounds exciting," Mom said, refilling his coffee cup. "What kind of business were you thinking about?" Jake launched into what was clearly a rehearsed speech about entrepreneurship and taking advantage of market opportunities and building something from the ground up. I watched his face as he talked, looking for signs of the person I'd overheard last night. The Jake who'd called me naive and talked about draining every cent from my family. "The thing is," he said, turning back to me, "it would require some initial investment. But Emma, I really think this could be our chance to build the life we've always talked about." I felt my dad's hand briefly touch my shoulder, a silent reminder to stay calm. "How much of an investment?" I asked. "Well, that's what I want to discuss with you. Maybe we could talk about it over dinner tonight? Somewhere nice? Just the two of us?" Before I could answer, there was another knock at the door. Dad went to answer it, and I heard a woman's voice asking for Jake. "Is Jake Harrison here? His car's in the driveway." My blood ran cold. I recognized that voice from last night, the woman who'd been in the room with Jake, planning my destruction. Jake's face went white. That's my cousin Rachel. She was supposed to meet me here to..." He was scrambling, trying to come up with an explanation. Dad opened the door wider, and the woman walked in. She was pretty in a sharp, predatory way, with blonde hair and too much makeup for 10 in the morning. When she saw all of us sitting around the kitchen table, she looked confused. "Jake, what are you doing? We were supposed to meet at your apartment an hour ago." Then she noticed me and her expression changed. "Oh, This is Emma." The way she said my name, with that slight smirk, made it clear she knew exactly who I was. This was the woman who'd laughed about how gullible I was, who'd helped plan to steal from my family. "Rachel, this isn't a good time," Jake said, standing up quickly. "Emma was sick last night, and I was just checking on her." "Right," Rachel said, looking around the kitchen. "Well, we really need to discuss those business plans we talked about. The Seattle opportunity won't wait forever." The room went dead silent. Jake looked like he wanted to disappear, and Rachel was clearly realizing she'd said too much. Dad stepped forward, and when he spoke, his voice was completely different from the friendly tone he'd used with Jake. "Seattle opportunity? That's interesting. Jake, I thought you were planning to stay local after graduation. Didn't you just tell Emma you wanted to start a business together?" Jake opened his mouth, but no words came out. Rachel looked between him and my parents, finally understanding that she'd walked into something bad. "I think," Dad continued, "we all need to have a conversation about what's really going on here." Mom stood up and moved to stand beside Dad, presenting a united front. I stayed in my chair, watching Jake's carefully constructed lies fall apart in real time. "Mr. Mitchell, I can explain," Jake said, but his voice was shaking now. "Oh, I'm sure you can," Dad said. "But first, Rachel, was it? Why don't you tell us about these business plans you and Jake have been discussing? The ones involving my daughter?" Rachel looked at Jake, clearly panicking. I think I should go." "No," Dad said firmly. "I think you should stay. I think we all need to clear the air about what exactly you two have been planning." That's when Jake made his biggest mistake. Instead of coming clean, instead of apologizing and trying to salvage some dignity, he decided to bluff. "I don't know what you think you heard, but you're completely wrong about this. Rachel and I are just friends, and any business discussion we've had doesn't involve Emma at all." Dad smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Is that so? Well then, you won't mind if I record our conversation from here on out, just to make sure we're all on the same page about what's being said." The look of pure terror that crossed Jake's face told me everything I needed to know. He was trapped, and he knew it. The silence in our kitchen stretched on until it became unbearable. Jake kept looking between me and the door, like he was calculating whether he could make a run for it. Rachel had gone completely pale and was clutching her purse like it might protect her from what was coming. Finally, Jake seemed to realize that his lies weren't going to work anymore. His shoulders sagged, and when he looked at me, I saw something I'd never seen in his face before. Not remorse, not guilt, but resignation, like he was annoyed that his plan hadn't worked out. "Fine," he said, his voice flat. "You want to know the truth?" Yes, Rachel and I were seeing each other. Yes, we were planning to leave town after graduation. And yes, I was going to ask you for money. The casual way he said it, like he was admitting to forgetting to take out the trash, made my stomach turn. Even now, even caught red-handed, he couldn't bring himself to acknowledge how much he'd hurt me. 3 years, I said quietly. "We were together for 3 years, Jake. Did any of it mean anything to you?" He shrugged. "It was fun while it lasted. You're a nice girl, Emma, but we both know this wasn't going anywhere long-term. I mean, look at your life plans. Teaching elementary school, staying in Wisconsin, the whole suburban mom thing. That's not exactly the future I had in mind." Dad stepped forward, and I could see him struggling to keep his temper in check. "Get out of my house." "Gladly," Jake said, standing up. "Come on, Rachel, we're done here." But Dad moved to block the doorway. "Actually, you're not going anywhere just yet. See, what you've just described is attempted fraud, conspiracy to commit theft, and I think the police are going to be very interested in hearing about it." Jake's face went white again. "You can't prove anything. It's just your word against mine." "Is it?" Dad pulled out his phone. "Because I've been recording this conversation since Rachel walked in and started talking about business plans and Seattle opportunities. Amazing what people will admit to when they think they're backed into a corner." I watched Jake's face as the reality of his situation sank in. He wasn't just losing me, wasn't just losing his plan to steal from my family. He was looking at real consequences for the first time in what was probably his entire life. "Mr. Mitchell, please," he said, and now his voice was shaking. I wasn't actually going to go through with it. It was just talk, just fantasy stuff. I would never have actually taken your money. Funny, Dad said. Because 5 minutes ago you were sitting at my kitchen table asking my daughter about investment opportunities and talking about your future together. That doesn't sound like fantasy to me. Rachel finally found her voice. Jake, we need to leave. Now. Nobody's leaving until the police get here, Mom said. And I realized she'd been on her phone in the corner. They're on their way. The next 20 minutes were a blur. Jake alternated between trying to charm his way out of trouble and making threats about how we couldn't prove anything. Rachel kept insisting she'd just been joking around, that none of it was serious. But Dad's recording told a different story, and when the police arrived, they were very interested in what they heard. I sat at the kitchen table through all of it, watching the boy I'd loved for 3 years reveal himself to be someone I'd never really known at all. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal, though that hurt enough. It was realizing how little I'd actually meant to him. I'd been a mark, a target, a means to an end. Nothing more. After the police left with Jake and Rachel in handcuffs, the house felt strange and quiet. Mom made more coffee, and Dad sat down beside me looking exhausted. You okay, sweetheart? I thought about it for a moment. I don't know. I feel like I should be more upset than I am. Like, shouldn't I be crying or screaming or something? Everyone processes things differently, Mom said, sitting down across from us. There's no right way to react to finding out someone you trusted was planning to hurt you. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed, I said. The way he never wanted to talk about the future in concrete terms. How he'd get weird when I mentioned visiting home. The questions about Dad's business that seemed casual but probably weren't. Emma, Dad said firmly, you need to stop blaming yourself for his choices. You're not responsible for being a trusting person in a relationship. That's how relationships are supposed to work. Over the next few hours, the whole story came out. Jake had done this before, twice that the police knew of. He'd target girls from families with money, build relationships with them, then disappear with whatever he could get. Rachel was his partner, sometimes posing as a cousin or friend, sometimes as a business associate. They'd been working this scam for almost 2 years. So, I wasn't special, I said, when Dad told me what the police had found. I was just another mark. No, Mom said quickly. You were special enough that he spent 3 years building a relationship with you. The other girls, it was only a few months each. I think maybe part of him did care about you, even if he was too selfish to let that stop him. I wasn't sure if that made me feel better or worse. That evening, I sat in my childhood bedroom, looking at pictures of Jake and me that I hadn't taken down yet. We looked happy in all of them, genuinely happy. And maybe, in some of those moments, we actually were. Maybe the Jake I'd fallen in love with had been real, just buried under layers of selfishness and greed. Dad knocked on my door around 9. How are you holding up? I don't know, I said honestly. I feel like I should hate him, but mostly I just feel empty. Like the last 3 years of my life didn't actually happen. They happened, Dad said, sitting on the edge of my bed. The feelings you had were real, even if his weren't. The person you became in that relationship, the things you learned about love and trust and commitment, those are all real too. Don't let what he did take that away from you. What if I can't trust anyone again? What if I'm too paranoid now to ever have a normal relationship? Dad was quiet for a moment. You know, when I was about your age, I got burned pretty badly by someone I trusted. Business partner who stole from me and left me holding the bag for about $50,000 in debt. You never told me that. Didn't seem relevant until now. But for a long time after that, I didn't trust anyone. Wouldn't go into business with people. Wouldn't lend money. Wouldn't even shake hands on a deal without a lawyer present. I was so afraid of being taken advantage of again. What changed? Your mother, he said with a small smile. She taught me that being careful and being closed off aren't the same thing, that you can protect yourself without shutting out everyone who might actually care about you. I looked at the pictures again, seeing them differently now. I really thought we were going to get married someday. Maybe you will marry someone someday, just not him. And when you do, you'll be smarter about red flags and better at spotting people who are only looking out for themselves. What Jake did to you was terrible, But it doesn't mean everyone will do that to you. After Dad left, I gathered up all the pictures and mementos from my relationship with Jake and put them in a box. I wasn't ready to throw them away yet, but I didn't want to look at them every day either. Someday, maybe I'd be able to remember the good parts without feeling like an idiot for missing the bad ones. 3 years of my life were over, but I was still here, hurt, but not broken. Wiser, even if the education had been painful, and surrounded by people who actually loved me, who'd proven they'd protect me when it mattered most. That had to count for something.